We are taught that Alexander the Great conquered the known world, spreading Hellenistic culture from the Balkans to Persia, Egypt to Central Asia. But history forgets the people who nearly ended Macedon entirely, and with it, any chance of an Alexander. Before Macedon rose to dominance, a formidable kingdom occupied the mountainous heart of the Balkans. They would hold off both the Macedonian and Roman empires long after most of the Mediterranean world had submitted. They were not a peripheral tribe clinging to the margins of history. They were a state-level power, a military force that gave Alexander himself reason for caution and the engine behind an ancient economy built on silver and iron. Their metallurgy fed the Greek city-states and later bankrolled Rome. Their control of the critical Balkan trade routes made them indispensable to every power that sought to dominate southeastern Europe. The iron from their mountains became weapons. The silver from their mines became hard currency, the kind that moves armies and builds empires. These were the Dardanians. The Greek historian Strabo ranks them among the most powerful of all the Illyrian peoples. They occupied what is now Kosovo, eastern Albania, northern North Macedonia, and southeastern Serbia. Terrain rich in argentiferous galena, a complex ore that, when smelted, yields both lead and silver in abundance. And today, the source of their ancient wealth still lies beneath the soil of one of Europe's most contested and least understood territories. King Bardylis stands as one of antiquity's most remarkable figures. A man who, according to ancient sources, rose from the son of a blacksmith to the ruler of a formidable Balkan state. He led the Dardanians at the height of their power, from around 400 BC to 358 BC, navigating an era of extraordinary volatility. The Peloponnesian War had exhausted the Greek city-states. Traditional power structures were fracturing under the weight of constant warfare, and the Balkans were in flux. Into that vacuum, Bardylis moved with precision. He first invaded Macedon in 393 BC, installing a puppet ruler and extracting annual tribute. At times, Macedon was forced to hand over hostages. For decades, the Dardanians treated their southern neighbor not as a rival, but as a vassal. Then came 359 BC, the year that changed everything. Most historians begin the story of Alexander with Philip. Few ask what made Philip necessary. That year, Bardylis met the Macedonian king Perdiccas III in open battle and destroyed him. Perdiccas was killed, along with 4,000 of his heavy infantry, roughly a quarter of the entire Macedonian fighting force. Macedon was left leaderless, bankrupt, and territorially exposed. It was, by any measure, a state on the edge of extinction. What happened next is one of history's great pivots. In the panic following the disaster, the Macedonian assembly turned to the dead king's younger brother, Philip II. He inherited a broken army, an empty treasury, and enemies pressing from multiple directions. His response was to rebuild from the ground up, forging a professional standing army, developing the Sarissa phalanx, a formation built around 6-meter double-handed pikes, and integrating elite cavalry with coordinated infantry tactics into a combined arms force unlike anything the ancient world had yet seen. The Macedonian military machine that would eventually conquer Persia was born directly from the crisis the Dardanians created. Philip later defeated Bardylis at the Battle of Eragon Valley. Rather than push into the difficult mountain Dardanian terrain, Philip sealed the peace through marriage, taking a daughter or niece of Bardylis as one of his wives. It was a calculated diplomacy. The Dardanians were too formidable and their territory too defensible to be worth the cost of subjugation. While Alexander swept through Persia, Egypt, and Central Asia, the Dardanians were never absorbed into the Macedonian Empire. They maintained their independence long after the Hellenistic kingdoms Alexander's generals carved from his conquests fell to Rome. But how did the Dardanians sustain their power? The deeper answer lies underground, in the mineral wealth concealed beneath what is now Kosovo. The Dardanians were the mining engine of the Central Balkans. As the Classical Age advanced, iron displaced bronze as the material of everyday life, for tools, for agriculture, for war. The Dardanians sat directly above some of the richest deposits in the ancient world. Dardanian smiths exported finished military equipment, spears, armor, bladed weapons, alongside the agricultural and domestic goods that sustained ancient economies: sickles, axes, hammers, nails. This was not raw material shipped to be processed elsewhere. It was value-added production, the kind that builds lasting wealth. To move these goods west to Adriatic markets, the Dardanians exploited a natural corridor through the rugged Central Balkans, a transversal route running from the Kosovo basin through the Drim River Valley to the Shkodra region and the Adriatic coast. Control of that route was itself a form of power. While iron built infrastructure, silver built empires. In antiquity, silver was the foundation of monetary economies. The Dardanians produced it in quantity. In the 4th century BC, silver from the Dardanian mining district moved south through the Axios Valley to supply the Chalkidian League's mint at Olynthos, one of the most important monetary centers in the Greek world. Dardanian silver, recast as Greek coinage, circulated through the Greek economies, funding Hellenic culture, armies, and trade. When Rome finally absorbed Dardania in 28 BC, it inherited the most productive silver mining region in the ancient world, and immediately set about extracting it at an industrial scale. A 2025 study by the Austrian Archaeological Institute concluded that the Central Balkans was the primary supplier of silver to the Roman Empire for more than 2 centuries. Archaeologists at mining sites like Trepsa and Stari Trg estimate approximately 5,500 tons of silver and 680,000 tons of lead extracted from this single region over that period. The territory of modern Kosovo was designated the personal estate of the emperor, not a province, not a territory, the financial heartland of the Roman world. But Rome took more from Dardania than metal. When the empire began to fracture in the 3rd century AD, battered by civil war, plague, and pressure on every frontier, it was soldiers and emperors born in Dardanian soil who held it together. The so-called Illyrian emperors, a succession of hardened military commanders from the Central Balkans, halted the collapse and bought Rome another 2 centuries of existence. Constantine the Great, who reunited the empire, legalized Christianity, and founded Constantinople, was born in modern-day Niš. Justinian the Great, who codified Roman law and briefly reconquered the Western Mediterranean, was born near modern-day Skopje. The people Rome had spent 3 centuries trying to conquer ultimately became the people who saved what Rome had built. Today, the same deposits that funded the Greek city-states bankrolled an empire of 60 million people and drove Yugoslav industrialization in the 20th century remain largely untouched in Kosovo. As Europe scrambles to secure its own critical minerals, reducing dependence on Chinese and Russian sources, Kosovo sits on an estimated 13.5 billion euros in metal reserves, according to the World Bank. These include base metals essential to the green energy transition. At the center of that wealth is Trepsa, a mining complex operational since the Roman era, potentially the largest lead-zinc-silver deposit in Europe. The unresolved dispute between Serbia and Kosovo, contested ownership of the mines, and decades of chronic underinvestment have turned one of Europe's most resource-rich corridors into a zone of economic stagnation, at precisely the moment when Europe most needs what lies beneath it. The Dardanians built a civilization on this ground. They held it against Macedon, outlasted the Hellenistic world, and ultimately gave Rome its emperors. Their successors are still waiting for the modern world to decide what to do with the inheritance.